The Boss in the Sauce Show.
Boss in the Sauce Show.
Boss in the Sauce Show.
Boss in the Sauce Show. Here we go.
Right back at ya. What's going on, folks? How you feeling today, Big Ragoo?
Doing good, my man. How about you, Big Boss? What's happening? You ready to rock and roll with some college football?
I'm ready to rock and roll, but it's only right that I give a good what up, though, to all the people out there that's checking us out right now. So we jumping on into our second half of the SEC. We're doing the East today. We did the West last week. So if you haven't seen that, go ahead, like, subscribe, check them out. Leave a comment, and come on over to the next show and leave your own comments and questions, and we'll answer them. I did have a difficult question on last week's show. Looks like I did some bad editing, and some music comes in towards the end. But for the folks that got that, I appreciate y'all dearly because you at least listened to that point, because it was a lot later on in those shows. But it's all good, man. I'll get it right this week and cut this up right for y'all so you guys can enjoy it, man.
Hey, let's see how talented they are listening to us. One ear for the music, one ear for me and you.
Yeah.
On the outro, yeah. That's good.
Yeah, it's all good, though, man. So let me see who we got in the chat so far. We got a comment. My man El Dorado says, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the show. I appreciate your times and thoughts, man. We appreciate you, and I've never seen you in the chat, so I really appreciate you coming over here, and enjoying this time with us. And I don't really want to hold everybody up. I'm gonna let Big Ragoo say any words before we take off into this SEC East.
Yeah, the SEC East. Last week we talked a little bit about the West. Our first show we did it in a day or a day and a half, anyways. So, yeah, we'll be doing a lot more of these, and then the closer we get to college football, we'll be hopping on, weekly, maybe twice a week if we get going good, And then DJ, he puts these things out as we do the show. Later on, he goes back and edits them up and chops them up by each team. So, yeah, just keep tuning in, and, we'll keep bringing the fire to you guys.
Y'all heard it from the man right there himself. So I'm going to jump on in, man. Let's go after the Georgia Bulldogs, sitting at the number one spot right here in the SEC East. My man Kirby Smart's back on his 7th year. 7 years purely right here at this school. His total record is 66-15. Offensive coordinator is Todd Mankin, and defensive coordinator is Will Muschamp. Kirby's has some peaks and valleys with this team up to this point, but he's definitely had some peaks winning the national championship last year as they went 14-1. 8-0 in the conference. The offense scored about 38 points per game, 191 on the ground, 252 in the air. The defense held them to 10 points a game, 79 yards on the ground, 190 in the air. He's done a great job here, and the question right here is, can he return some people here to move forward now? So according to my theories and philosophies that, and the process of building a team, in the 7th year right here, he should be stacked with some depth. And we're going to really see is it really his coaching and recruiting or whatever, or, maybe did he just get lucky? What you think about this team going into 2022, Big Ragoo?
I think we're going to see more of the same with Georgia. They were early on, you had Daniels come in from USC, who was the starter, right? Mm-hmm. Then Bennett comes in, towards the end of the season. And, everybody was wanting Daniels to be the quarterback. And I think Stetson Bennett earned his keep for sure on this team. When you win a national championship, it's going to be kind of hard to throw that kid out of that spot. So Daniels, he went on to West Virginia. And, they lost a ton of talent. They only got 10 returning starters, which – that you bringing up the depth issue with Georgia is not going to be an issue, because if you go back and look how this team's recruited, and a lot of people that know this for years, but Georgia is richly deep in talent. They're like number 3 in the country for high school talent coming out. And I think all things being equal, Florida, Texas, Georgia, and California talent-wise, there's a lot of rich talent in Georgia. So they're going to be loaded up. And like you said, is it going to be a concern? Not in my book. A team that yields 10 point, a little over 10 points a game in defense, and is going to be ready to rock and roll on offense. They're going to have their running back in place. And the offensive line is probably where they got nicked up the most, but I think the next up level is going to play big here, and I think Georgia's going to be sitting in a good spot. We have a lot of coaching changes, which we know in the SEC, which that's going to probably like 7 new coaches. So that they've got to catch up to speed. But the old dogs are going to still play their old tricks. With Kirby Smart being one of those.
I absolutely agree. And this year at the running back position, they bring back 3 or 5. So they definitely got some depth over there that they continue to build it on. And last year in the running game, they were able to just plug and play players where they needed them. And overall on the line, they do get 3 or 5 back on the line. So, if the offensive coaching is real, it's nothing to coach up 1 or 2 players. It's when you lose 4 or 5 of your men and they were all together. Yeah. These 3 in the inside can help them out and get them going on the outside as well and lock it down. So the only big loss that I seen they took was wide receiver Jermaine Burton, who transferred over to Alabama. And he was a pretty solid receiver over there. But sometimes some people can say that receivers come a dime a dozen. So it depends on how you look at that. Now, the problem on defense is they did lose most of that defensive line, which was one of their strengths. Yeah. To the NFL. So we'll see how much depth and everything he can plug in right there. At the linebacker position, he's usually always solid. You know what I'm saying? Even though he has a solo returner this year, he may be able to, once again, use some of his depth to fill some of those spots.
Yeah, he's got Neal and Smith are coming back, so he should be good there on the outside.
Yeah. Smith is coming back. And then the number 1 pass defense goes to this, and passing defense, you got to look at that as a system, not always so much the players, because it's how some of those defensive coordinators teach the system. And whether you cover zone or whether you're doing run, man, and what your responsibilities is makes a big difference, and sometimes can make mediocre players better and better players mediocre. So I think that they'll do well out there in the passing area. What's your overall look on Georgia, and any bet trends or anything you looking to follow with Georgia?
Yeah, what I tried to do last year with Georgia, especially with how stout their defense was, I tried to pick a couple times during the course of the year teams that I thought maybe would score more than 10 points, because a lot of their team total was like 10. Like one, for instance, I got, it took me all game to cash it, but they scored early. South Carolina was like 10.5 or something like that. So I thought they were kind of like hitting some early season form, not form because they had a new head coach and they had some offensive struggles, but they were pretty good on defense. I figured maybe a turnover or 2 would put them in good field position, which Georgia did a good job of taking care of the football too last year, by the way. But anyways, one trend I was looking to bet against on Georgia was the team total, because their team total against was real low, and I cashed out twice. Once was with South Carolina, and then there was another spot, but I lost once. I played it 3 times, and I was successful twice. So maybe look at with all the changes going on in the SEC this year, that's going to have to give me another type of look, I would think, because depending on and then when they get outside of a cross conference, when they play somebody in the West, somebody like Bama or Auburn's is a big game for them when they match up with them. But Auburn's defense is good too. But those are some of the looks I'll be looking at. Probably team total overs against Georgia's defense, even though they're going to be still good. Maybe not as good as last year, but still good.
Yeah, I'm gonna call for them to be at least I want to say 5 points up on the defensive side. Maybe they get into giving up maybe 15 to 20 points a game.
Yeah, 20 is a big jump.
Those defensive linemen that they lost were huge. Like those were the playmakers and to change the game in the national championship. So I don't expect the defense to do as well. So I will be looking at maybe some overs in some situations against some high passing team. But we have to pay attention to them. And the main thing here is does he have enough depth to come in and continue what he's doing? It's going to be a big year for him if he survives this one. If he can even return back to the college playoffs, this is going to make him, his value go so high up in this one
Yeah.
right here.
I
So
mean, they've been knocking at the doorstep for a lot of years. You know, they just could never beat Bama, never beat Bama. So finally, when they did, they get the
yeah,
national championship, the first one in 40 years for them.
let's say he gets over the hump. But let's take it to the next team, man. We're gonna move it on along. We're going for Tennessee Volunteers right here. We got
Mm-hmm.
Josh Heupel in his 5th year right here. It's his 2nd season here at the school. Last year he went 7-6. He has offensive coordinator Alex Golish and defensive coordinator Tim Bank. Heupel had his ups and downs throughout his career, and I think he'll experience the same thing here in Tennessee. He's definitely some hard learned lessons to learn in the SEC. So I'm sure he'll get his peaks and valleys as well. Last year he came out on top 7-6, although he went 4-4 in the conference. Offense averaged 39 points a game, ran 218 a game on the ground. Passing yards was 257 in the air. The defense held teams to 29.1 points a game, gave up about 149 on the ground and 273 in the air. So I see some flaws in the numbers that leads me to think that he got some work to do right here in 2022. What's your outlook on this team right here, Tennessee, with your boy Heupel?
Yeah, I was I wasn't big on Heupel last year, but I was big on to see what he did because I was really big on Pruitt in 20 during the COVID year, the recruiting class. They had the number one recruiting class in college football, and everybody made an exodus once they got rid of Jeremy Pruitt. You know, they fired him, brought in
Mm-hmm.
Heupel last year, and all the talent left with that. So that was going to be like an interesting look for me. He was able to corral. Hendon Hooker, quarterback from Virginia Tech, which did a fantastic job last year. I thought, his team. He's one of these playmakers that you get him out of the pocket and he doesn't want to be tackled. He wants to gain every yard he can, and the coaches were really trying to rein him in to say, hey, look, slide, run out of bounds, but he's not in his DNA. He wants to make that play. So that was my main concern. I really like that kid. That's going to be the key for them going forward. If they're going to win games, and this team scored 39 points on average a game, I thought he brought kind of like that mentality when he played at Oklahoma and coached at UCF to kind of bring that forward into the SEC. And we've seen some guys in the SEC that have the high power offenses with Lane Kiffin and the guy from Washington State. I always forget his name, man. But anyways, they have high power offenses, and these teams kind of geared down towards defense. I was kind of hoping Heupel would do that, but Tennessee's defense was pretty bad last year especially against the run, and they had some moments against the pass too. So this is a team that if they're going to compete, and they are up to pick number 2, they're not gonna have to outscore their opponent 40 points, score 40 points a game, because that's undoable in the SEC. I think if they're going to give up 38 point 35 points and try to win by 38, that's not going to be a recipe for success. So their schedule is a little tougher this year. I think they got to play. They do have Florida, Alabama, Kentucky at home, and they got to go play Georgia on the road. So they can still win 9 to 10 games. This team, but they're going to have a little help. But I think 7-6 was a pretty decent year for first year coach last year, and I don't know. My question mark is going to be at the quarterback play, how they approach with Hooker. If they kind of reel him in or they just let him be the playmaker he is. Defensively, they got some struggles. That's where it's at for me with them. I think they're going to score points. It's whether their defense, kind of reign some, kind of improve on the defensive side of the ball. And they probably won't win 10 games if they give up what they gave up last year, but they're not going to outscore all the teams that they had. But they do have, like I said, we do have 7 new coaches, and I think three of them are on that side of the conference still.
Well, he has the support of his players, returning 8 on offense, 5 are seniors. Now, according to what they're saying over here on Phil Steele and at the line, is that the quarterback position is not all the way sewn up. We still have Joe Milton, who had 8 starts last year, returning, and they're supposed to go head to head with a true freshman, Taven Jackson, as well. But like you said, Hooker's a way more quality player. He showed that fire and desire before, and he should make it out of there. But we'll see how does it go in the end when the season starts. But
Yeah.
at running back, they get three of their top four from last year back, so they'll be doing well at the running position. And once again, the running will be their anchor because the passing game, although we had a wonderful offensive line over there, they did allow 44 sacks last year. So they got to tighten up on the offensive line. They did bring in a little help from Florida transfer Gerald Mincy, and he also has some good depth over there at that position as well. And at wide receiver, three of the top five are back, along with transfer Brew McCoy from USC as well. So these
Yeah.
guys, they got it all planned out and dialed in what they want to do. So we'll see how they put that offense together over there. Now on the defensive side of the ball, they're returning 7, and 6 of those are seniors. So one band, one sound right there. That's what you're looking for. A
Yeah. A
bunch of
lot of seniors.
seniors coming to hold it down. So at the defensive line, this unit accounted for 7 of 20 sacks in 2021. They only returned 2 starters, but some talented depth will be there to help them out. And the coaching staff has their work cut out. But I think these guys can do it. Like you said, they could hop up on the East real quick. They already got them picked to be number 2. So
Yeah.
any highlights on the defense for you?
That's what I was kind of looking for. Just reading through the on the defensive side, like you said, they got 7 starters, 7 returning starters coming out, a ton of upperclassmen, which always bodes well. But for teams that are just because you got same guys coming back, it depends how good they were before they come back.
Right.
So this team, like I said, the question mark is on the pass defense for me. So if they make the improvements on the pass defense, I think that they'll definitely kind of trim the fat, so to speak, on a line. And I mean, overall passing, they're giving up almost a little under 300 yards a game. That's concerning for me. Like right around 270, 277, 278. So they're giving up like 420. Their rushing defense is not bad. 148. That's very respectable. But the main thing is the passing defense. So that's going to be the jury that's out for me to see how they do there. And then if they make some adjustments, they I think overall, they should be okay. But the hurry up offense too that they run too. So up tempo offense. If you're going to get involved with betting this team, and we are talking betting here, this team is to me it's an over type team. Because of the defense being a little lax and them scoring a ton of points. We see some 100-point games with this team last season, both sides of the ball. So, look for totals when they start creeping above 60, 65. Don't be scared.
Yeah, I see him as I mean, we really don't know what we're gonna get overall. There's a lot of things to be worked out to see how it all meshes together. But I like this team as a dog for sure in the SEC. Wherever we can get them as a dog, even if we get a solid 7 or more against teams like Georgia or Alabama, I think they'll still be solid. I mean, if you go up and down Florida, Missouri, yeah. I mean, a lot of those games they won't be favored. I mean, a lot of those games they will be favored, but I think they may be a cover team as well. I mean, if you think they're going to win outright, if they get to beating the drum to that tune, and you see them winning, the offense is working, then they might be a good cover team for the games that they're favored in, and then cover team when they're the dogs of 7 or more.
Yeah,
so
they'll be small favorites against Florida, maybe Kentucky at home. They'll probably be 3 to 7 points. 4 points.
Yeah, those are good cover spots for them because teams that score a lot, especially if they learn to score late, and they college football can go upside down in the half. So we'll see how that works out for them. Any last words before we move over to Florida?
No, just just watch this team for points scored, because maybe team total overs possibly, and then over team look for me.
There we go. You heard it here first, right here on Who Bangin Sports with my man Big Ragoo on the Boston Sauce Show. I got all slipped up right there. I'm doing too much at one time. Let's flip the page to Florida, man. We got our guy over here, Bill Napier, comes over here to Florida. How you feel about Napier? I mean, this is part of your territory right here.
Yeah.
What do you think they're thinking? What do you think is going to be the end result with this one right here? I have him down at a 7-year contract, 51.8 million, and 100,000 increase yearly. So they paid him righteous to come on over there too. So what you think, Big Ragoo?
Florida's still paying head coach money for the past couple head coaches they had, but yeah, I like Napier. I like him. We liked him when he was at Louisiana. When he was working with Saban, they thought he was ready for a big job when he left the first go round. But I think he did. I think he did a nice thing over at Louisiana. And he was head coach material. Obviously, he proved his point there, and now he's ready for the next step. So, and they say he pays very good attention to detail. Like I'm hearing about the practices that like he's got stuff like in 15 minutes he's got enough to work him through the whole spring. Just he's when he's organized, when he runs his practices and he lays out his plan for the team. So just on a quick note from the head coaching perspective, I think he was a good hire for Florida. Not that Mullen was a bad guy, but whatever Mullen had on his plate, this is a team that won 10 games back-to-back years. We're thinking that they were going to win 10 games last year. And a 2-point conversion away from beating Bama changes the whole look and dynamic for this team for the season last year. But it just went real south real quick. And I think there was mutiny on this team, not so much with the players, but something to do with the coaching staff that we never really heard about. Because, a team that recruited this well had that much talent to kind of go sideways like that did last year, to go I think they went 2-6 in conference. And it was really ugly for them last year. But they're ready for a new coach, a new breath of fresh air. And then maybe, I think they have a ton of talent on the team. They recruited well. They still have leftover talent. You can update me on the portal maybe. I know they always have good edge rushers. They always have, a good running back game. Quarterback was a big issue last year for them, up and down in the quarterback position. I think this year, now that they kind of gave the reins to Richardson. He was a freshman last year, now he's a sophomore this year. So I think they kind of gave him the green light early. So that takes all that out of the equation. So Florida should be decent this year. A lot of guys had them 3-4. I got them like a solid 3 in the SEC East. Maybe they might overachieve a little bit here. Don't be surprised if they do.
Big Ragoo leaning into a season total over, huh?
They might overachieve. I don't know what they have that number set. They probably got it set at 6 or 7, I would believe.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, last year they did go 6 and 7. The offense averaged about 30 points a game. The defense gave up about 26.8 a game.
Yeah.
They're returning 6 on offense, 7 on defense. He digs in the portal for 5 solid players. And one to note is Osiris Torrance, who is a follower of Napier from Louisiana, moves over on the offensive line where they already have a solid unit with 3 returners. So he's going to be the icing on the cake in that respect. And he also brings in Montrell Johnson at running back as well.
Yep.
So
running back from Louisiana.
And then he went as far as out to Arizona State to transfer Ricky Purcell for wide receiver as well, because they have some size but not much depth at that position. So they're going to bring them in right now. Another one notable was the defensive line. Not very many returners except for the standout nose tackle, Javon Dexter, and the 415-pound Desmond Watson. We will be watching for him to see how he does on that defensive line. But, the proof is going to be in the coaching right here. And this guy, he's a solid guy all the way through. He's a real solid coach.
Yeah,
it's not even parts you could try to dissect. I mean, he knows how to make the process, develop players, recruit, and he should do well right here in Florida. But I don't know if Florida bounced back in the SEC. Is so tough to get your feedback on the ground in the SEC right away. Might take a little developmental year for him right here, even though people have a high ceiling for him. Maybe it's just not all the way there yet. But
Yeah,
with
it's
the
early.
with the players he returned, gives them a chance. And of course, right now, at this point of the season, yeah, that's what we're looking at. We're looking how it looks on paper. So on
Yeah.
paper, it looks great that he's receiving all these people. But like you said earlier, like you're receiving people from a team that was not so well off. You know, they went 6 and 7 last year. So what can you say about the returners? So we'll see how things go right here. I don't really have many bet angles. I mean, on this one, usually with first year coaches that take over a team that has a little bit of talent, if they're really good coaches, they'll come in the conference and go for the kill right away. But in the SEC, not so fast. You know what I mean? But we'll see. I guess, like we said, he's a quality coach, so we'll see how the process actually plays out. But I wish him the best.
Yeah, well, you brought up a great point about the coaching staff. I thought he brought in two ringers. He went to LSU and he got the DB coach over there, um,
Oh yeah,
Corey Raymond. Like he's there since like 12 to 21, part of a national championship team. He went out and he got Rob Sale, who is going to be his offensive coordinator. He spent most of his coaching life as an offensive line coach at Bama, Georgia, uh, Louisiana Monroe, Arizona State, and he was with the Giants, New York Giants. But the last 3 years, he was uh, he was Napier's offensive coordinator. So he brought him over with him. So he kept that continuity, for his system there. So we'll see how the talent adapts because they definitely have talented players. Richly talented team overall. And like you said, sounds like he brought some pieces with him. At running back from offensive line from Louisiana. So kind of incorporated. Somebody knows the system a little bit. So we'll see what happens. I think they'll be good. How good they'll be, how fast will be another question. But I think they'll definitely be well coached, and they're going to have talent on board.
we got big questions. Let me pause for these questions right here. Well, I can't even see that one. That one's so small. Boss in the sauce. His name is Gianni. Straight SEC LSU. Does better when able to bounce stuff off last year. With Jimmy kind of started saying was up. He's into the spot. Starts on your show. I don't know what that one says, but not sure at all if this works or not. G's need help, respect. Just my first thought. We appreciate your comments, man. 100%, man. Say what you like. I probably can't figure it out right now, but I'll figure it out later. What you're saying right there, but I do like to stop to recognize my chat right here because I really do appreciate everybody showing up and hanging out with us right now. So we're halfway through this one, Big Ragoo. We only got what 3 teams left? No, 4 teams left.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah. We
we
got to
got we
do
got
who you got for number 4.
we're going in the Kentucky Wildcats right here.
Yeah. It depends on what poll you look at. Kentucky and Florida are like flip flop 3-4. So either way,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yep.
agree.
So we right here with Kentucky. Mark Stoops, 10th year coaching, 10th year at the school. He's 59 and 53 overall. He's 7 and 6 right here at Kentucky. And that must have been last year. I got my notes mixed up too. Anyways, offensive coordinator Rich Scangrella and Brad White is the
Mm-hmm.
defensive coordinator. The last 4 years have been good with the 2 win season, but stepping into the SEC against big contenders is where they want to be. So they've been making some progress in the SEC, but they got to get over the humps, and that's the big guys in this conference. Last year they was 10-3, 5-3 in the conference. The offense ran at about 31 points a game, 199 on the ground, 225 in the air. The defense gave up 21.7 points a game, allowed 121 on the ground, and also allowed 218 in the air. So balance has been the key right here in Kentucky. I think they have room. They have a higher ceiling than they at right now, so they have room to move up in here. they switched over to more of a passing offense, which has been working for them. So I don't know where you feel. What do you feel the real deal is about Kentucky coming into 2022?
Kentucky got really good last year on account of the portal. As a matter of fact, they did really, really well. They brought in last year. They had the quarterback. As a matter of fact, Will Levi. He was the product of Penn State, and then you got Wandell Robinson came from Nebraska, Rosenthal came from LSU, and Jock Jones from Mississippi on the defensive side. So they had a lot of a big wave of portal players last year, and like you talked about the coaching, they did so well on the offense. Levi, he had 2,800 yards passing, 33 touchdowns, and 400 yards rushing. So that was a big impact player for them right away. And they did lose Liam Cohen, their offensive coordinator, who went back to the Rams. So do they have to hit the reset button this year on the offensive side to kind of to put things back in place? They got like you said, he's an Italian guy. I think I should know this guy's name right here. The coach, the offensive coordinator. Let's see, who was it? Yeah, Rich Scangarello, right? Scangarello. Let me check my notes. Okay, so
Scangarello, yeah. So you pronounced it better than me.
So he's another NFL guy that comes in. His last 5 years, he had one stint with the 49ers as a quarterback coach. And then he was with the Broncos, the Eagles, and then he went back to the Niners as a quarterback coach. But I think 2 years, the year with the Broncos was 19. He was the offensive coordinator with them. And then he was an offensive assistant with the Eagles like in 2020 and 21. Now, and then last year he went back to the as a quarterback coach with the 49ers, and now he comes back in. But one thing was assured with this guy, that the playbook was not going to change because they had good success with it with the talent that they had. Now they did lose a couple guys. I think they did lose their wide receiver to the Giants in the draft. The kid that came over, what's his name, Rondell. He's gone, but they have a ton of defense returners, I think, that came back with the 6-year option on the defensive side, and they're kind of like right there in the middle. They've given up like 20. I think they're ranked 4th in the SEC in defense. So they have a lot of good looks here on this team. And Stoops' brother is coming back. He kind of flipped roles there. They lost their defensive coordinator. He took a head coaching job somewhere else. I think he went. Where did he go? Anyways, he went off to another position at a smaller school, FCS, I think, possibly. So now Mike Stoops comes in and is the defensive coordinator, where Mike Stoops was the coach of Arizona. Mark Stoops was the defense for him when his brother was the head coach of Arizona. So they reverse roles now. So it's still in the family. A nice little look there. So I like this Kentucky team. They've recruited well. They coach well. They got a good system. Mark knows what he's doing. And just a couple years back, they were talking about getting rid of him, and then he went on this, nice little tear for the past 3-4 years he's on. So Kentucky's a viable team in my book.
Yeah, on the offense, it was kind of weird. I have them kind of mismatched on the offense. A lot of adversity on this one. Now they do return Will Levi, who is the quarterback, but they did lose at the wide receiver unit. The wide receiver unit lost 4 of their top 5. So they have a great passer, but now they need help with, who's going to catch the ball.
Yeah, rebooting, yeah.
And then they have a great running back team. They had all 5 return at running back, but yet they still have some holes in the offensive line. I mean, in 2020, they were going at about 280 rushing per game, and then in 2021 that went all the way down to 225. And the offensive lineman coach calls this the blue wall. So I don't know if we're gonna get the blue wall or we're gonna get the picket fence, but either way it go, they got some mismatched pieces right here. They got to put them together and make them make sense. But he did hit the portal real tough again this year. He was only returning 4 on the offense, 3 with your seniors, 5 on the defense, 4 with your seniors. So he did get some seniors to hang around with him, which is important. People who know your system, they know, especially with all this old bullying and all this crazy stuff they got going on in the locker rooms. You want players that believe in you and believe in your system. So players that hang around seniors that play well are a plus in these situations. On the
Yeah.
defensive side of the ball, pretty much at nothing really to stand out other than a bunch of plug and play players that he's going to do over here in the defense, and we'll have to see how that works out for him because only some coaches can figure that part out on who you could just plug and play. And another note that I noticed last year about teams where they plug and play players, a lot of those guys they either get injured, kind of early, or they play for a while and they get injured late in the season. And then some of those guys start off really well, and then when they get comfortable mid-season, they kind of lax up a little bit. So we'll see how you get these guys to play on the field. I don't know, bet-wise, with this team, they're so balanced overall, and, they're well coached. So I don't know. I mean, I guess you could look for them to be a sleeper sometimes when they're a dog, but at the same time, they may be one of those teams that if the book comes up with them being a dog, that's the game they're going to be a dog for whatever reason. But I don't know. It probably won't be one of my favorite bet on teams or against, but definitely with the right opportunity and some value, I think you can back this guy and his plug and play players to play well on the field.
Well, the key thing here is with Kentucky, you can't let you guard down the SEC because you can get slapped around by even, nobody like Vanderbilt or maybe even Missouri is going to probably smack around. But Missouri's one of them dangerous teams too. We'll talk about them. They're like coming up later, a couple more teams down. But anyways, yeah, I was looking at their schedule, and in reality, they have they got Florida. They got Ole Miss, South Carolina, Mississippi State, Tennessee, which could be a trouble spot possibly, more competitive. And then they got Missouri, Vanderbilt, which they should handle, Louisville, they should handle, and Georgia. So you're looking at 10 wins for this team here. Not easily, but they stay on. They open up with Miami, Ohio, and Youngstown State in Florida before that, but in Northern Illinois. I mean, come on, we're looking at 10 wins here for this team. Whether they cover in those spots is something different, but. The tough task is going to be Georgia, like game before last, and they play them after Vanderbilt, so to soften them up. But yeah, it's like you said, take care of the football and handle your business. And there might be. I don't see a lot of underdog spots for this team.
Yeah,
maybe one or two.
Because of their ability to score, it was a little bit like that last year too. So I don't think you catch the book slipping, but I mean, you're just gonna have to find those particular games where your numbers line up way better than theirs. So I don't know. Like I said, it probably won't be a team that I bet a lot, but I will find the right spot to bet them.
Yeah.
But let's move on, man. We're gonna keep the show flowing and going, and roll right on into the South Carolina Gamecocks. Shane Beamer, second year here at the school. He's 7-6 last year. Offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield, defensive coordinator Clayton White. Now, he did win 3 of his last 5 games last year, which included the bowl victory. He looks like he could have a high ceiling right here at South Carolina. So he's a guy to watch right here. Now, I'm not too keen on second-year coaches, more on third-year coaches. But this could be one of those guys from the way that he gets those guys to play defense.
Yeah, no doubt. This team, they turned around, and he's a second-year coach, like you said. Him and Josh Heupel, you're in the same boat. I think Josh, did what he had to do, and this is another team that kind of, I would say, maybe might have overachieved just a little bit because of the fact that him being a first-year coach. They had some nice games that they played. They played. Let's see, who was their big win last year? The big one was they beat North Carolina in the bowl, right? They beat Auburn late in the season.
Right, yeah.
And they beat Florida. So those 3 big wins late in the season, kind of gave them a little bit of inspiration. And they got blanked by Clemson 30-0. So that was a reality check there after beating Auburn. That was a big, not a letdown spot, but just kind of, they were probably riding high off of that game. And it just, it just kind of carried over into that game. But yeah, the thing with Carolina or South Carolina is, the biggest news is they went and got Spencer Rattler from Oklahoma. Now,
Bingo.
here's a kid that had national championship aspirations. Was the next Heisman Trophy candidate because Oklahoma did nothing but churn out a Heisman Trophy candidates and winners and whatnot. And then Rattler was 15-2 as a starter in Oklahoma, and he had a couple marginal games. And next thing you know, he's on the bench. I remember you were kind of upset about that when we talked about that last year. They should have gave the kid. Here he is, the senior, but he opted to come back and play another year, and he had the eligibility, so he took it. So that was amazing. That was probably the biggest score I think in all of college football was South Carolina getting this kid. Rather love him or hate him, the kid still, like I say, he's 15-2 as a winner. So the weakest point of South Carolina was definitely their offense. They haven't had a quarterback in forever in that school, but they always had a solid defense. Even with the old ball coach when he was there, Spurrier, they never got that big name quarterback. And Muschamp, so he didn't do nothing with the offense. So we'll see. And Beamer can get something out of this kid and spark the offense. And what Beamer does, is the Beamer lineage. They're good at special teams. South Carolina will have good special teams. They'll be well coached, and they're probably. I want to say they'll probably be a middle pack team this year. Maybe 7 wins, 6-7, come out the same way. But just be on the lookout for this team to make something, in an underdog role. Like I say, look for this team to play on underdog spots. They'll probably win like half their games, and and they better not let their guard down against this team because they'll be ready to play.
Yeah, I'm leaning at South Carolina to be maybe an under team, and let me tell you why. They are getting it together on the offensive line. They returned 5 starters from 2021. 3 of them are seniors. I'm expecting them to do a lot better running the ball and controlling the game. And last year, they did control games. Although they only scored 22 points on offense, they did hold teams to 24 points on defense, which is a little bit upside down, but the 24 mark is not that bad. They allowed 175 on the ground, but they only allowed 180 in the air. So they can tighten up in some spots on defense, and definitely the offense is going to need some improvement. They have the quarterback. They have the offensive line now, but they were lacking that running back, but they did call in for transfers from Wake Forest, Georgia, and Columbia. And at the wide receiver position, he hits the portal hard again, too, with players from Oklahoma, James Madison, Arkansas State, Eastern Tennessee. So he's digging in the cracking craters to find talent to fill in on offense. But overall, I don't think he did. He put as much attention on the defense as he did the offense. The strength of the defense will be back with the defensive backs. They lost 2, but they returned 3. So they do have some of their best guys at that spot. But I think he could have paid a little more attention to the defensive line and the linebacker staff right there. And like you said, because of that, I think this year just comes down to part of the process. And we get, like you said, like a mid-level season out of this guy. Just like last year, he was able to peak and beat Auburn. He may be able to make a couple peaks like that. But I think overall, he's not really going too far with this team.
Yeah, I'm not going to say because the talent level won't let him get there. I just think it's more of an implementation of his process and a lot of new pieces, coming in because he's got kind of almost like a mini revolving door happening right now, with the portal. And he does have some, like you said, returning starters and some upperclassmen coming back. I think in the skill position on the offense, whether the recruiting level or the talent level steps up, definitely got the upperclassmen there to kind of fill in the peaks and valleys for what he has now. So he's going to have a bunch of seniors on the team and some juniors to boot. So I think he's well off there. Whether the talent competes, we'll see what Rattler does. Maybe Rattler puts a fire under these kids and lets them buy in and they make some stuff happen. It's going to be an interesting season. It's going to be a fun team to watch. I think South Carolina with Rattler coming in.
Yeah, I think they may have some problems with balancing on that side, and we could get some unders out of that spot right there. Being that maybe early in the season, early in the season, it takes a while for the offense to gel. The defense just needs a little bit of fine tuning in some areas, and always having a good passing defense helps you on that under. So I'm looking to see what the numbers look like, especially in like mid 50s or early 50s or higher. I'm leaning towards under. I think these guys keep guys under the 24 points a game, and I think they just do a little bit better than 24 points a game. So right around that same thing. So I'm leaning under on those guys for the season. We're gonna keep the show flowing and jump into something that I like to talk about. A coach on his third year. So we come over here to Missouri Tigers. We got Elijah Drinkowitz, fourth year coaching, third year here at this school. Overall, he's 23-13. Right here at Missouri, he's 11-12. His offense, he's his own offensive coordinator. Don't ever get that twisted. But his defensive coordinator is my man Baker. Now, he does great against losing teams since he's been in this conference, but he struggles to beat the big guy. He's 1-12 versus the power teams in schools. So this guy, you got to get it together. I don't know if maybe Missouri is giving him the athletes that he needs to be equipped to do this, but he's going to have to get over that hump at some point, but he's got to do a lot of work to make it happen. His offense was scoring about 29 points a game. It was upside down because the defense was giving up 33 points a game. That's never a good mix right there. On offense, he's 179 on the ground, 233 in the air. On defense, he's giving up 227 on the ground, but only giving up 206 in the air. So if he could slow down, and that, that's kind of these are the stats you kind of look at to blow another way. Because if you look at a team that's giving up 220 rushing yards on the ground, but only allowing 206 in the air, which is pretty decent, you're looking at those schools, they have good pass defense, but it could be that it's just so easy to run on them. There's no reason to pass. But I don't know how it's gonna get addressed in 2022. But I don't know. Third year coach, I gotta lean on his side a little bit. He does get the returners, 7 on offense, 7 on defense, 5 seniors on both sides. So he did do the right thing. Some players are barred in, but I mean, you're Missouri. How far do you come up in the SEC, Big Ragoo?
Not too far this year. Here's why. I got really the most productive part of this team, and let's talk about Drinkowitz. I'm going to touch on him real quick, though. I agree with you. I'm all about the third and fourth year, coaches coming in. But I think in his case, he was part of that revolving door at App State when they had like 3 coaches in 3 years, and he was like a 1-year turnaround coach there, and he had a successful season. So he kind of benefited from what they had going on being in that system. And then he went over to Missouri. So I'm not saying he bit off a little more than he can chew, but I think they might have gave him a little more accolades than he possibly deserved because of the success of it at App State. But not saying he's a bad coach, but just, he's got his way of doing things. And I agree, he did get some stuff done offensively with the squad, but defensively, like you said, you can run up and down the field on them all day, and there's no reason to really air it out if you have success doing that. And that kind of maybe plays into his passing numbers on the defensive side a little bit. But it's going to get ugly for him here at quarterback and running back because I think he's a little light. He's going to have to develop some talent there, and that's where we're going to see his coaching ability on the offensive side. So even if they didn't have Vandy in their division, they'd be the last place team. But but they do score points. They have scored points in the past. They've shown some offensive proficiencies where they're able to put points on the board in the SEC, which that speaks volume in itself. So I don't know. It's going to be the jury's going to be out for me. I'm going to have to watch this team a couple, 3-4 weeks before I probably get a good solid read on what they're going to do on the offensive side. Defensively, we already know what they do. So, it depends on how the offense keys in and what the defense looks like early on. We might see some high numbers against this team here, and maybe it might be because it's going to be hard to read if they don't put a lot of points on the board. When I say a lot, I'm talking like last year this team averaged Their defense gave up almost 34 points a game, but the offense scored close to 29. So those you do the math on that. That's like 60 points a game. So we'll
Yeah.
see how they fare out. I'm going to be interested from a total perspective with this team, depending on what the offense does early on and whether they make any improvements on defense.
Yeah. Well, on offense, he did make one of the biggest recruiting efforts. He got
Yeah,
young kid named freshman wideout 5-star recruit Luther Burton. He was highly touted by Georgia and Alabama and decided to come on over to Missouri. So that was a great accolade for him. He does return a decent offensive line. But like you said, we're not really sure what's going to go down at the quarterback position. And then
the
there's
skill
nobody
position.
there's nobody specific that's going to run the ball. So he's lacking in the skill position. But I mean, you can always rooting in the defensive line is always great. I'm not too sure how far a wide receiver is going to take you, but a good offensive line will definitely make a difference. And then here on the defense, like I said, he's returning 7. 5 of them are seniors, and he had the plug and play players from all over in the defense as well. Only got few returners in some spots, but this year we'll have to see how it looks. It could be a dog to bet on if this team is really they're buying into the system. I definitely look at here's my bet. Look at this one. I definitely look at this team out of conference. When it comes in, they put SEC versus Conference USA or something way off. This is the spots where they'll probably do well. When it gets to the meat and potatoes of the SEC, that's where I plan for them to get the shit kicked out of them.
Yeah, well,
But
that's going to be early on. The first 3 games we've got Louisiana Tech, Kansas State, and Abilene Christian, and and then it's all SEC sledding from there up until they play New Mexico State before the last game of the season when they play Arkansas. So you got 3 early looks and a real late look.
yeah, so maybe 4 or 5 wins for them in this year, and they take it to the bank. They learn off of it, and maybe he gets more players to believe in the system, and his 4th year be where he peaks out a little bit.
Yeah.
Last but not least, we have to move on to the smarter people in the world and come on over to this
Thank God for that.
Vanderbilt Commodores. Yeah, thank God for that, because I don't know what they're going to do playing football. But Coach Clark Lee, 2nd year coaching here, 2nd year at this school. He's 2-10 as a coach. He has offensive coordinator Joey Lynch, defensive coordinator Nick Howe. This is just another part of the process for this Vandy team. We gave it a part of the process last year. We're gonna give it a part of the process this year. I don't know how fast this guy can flip the coin, but like we was just talking about, it's all gonna come down for him in the out of conference games. Those will probably be where he excel, because the teams in the SEC, they don't even want to dream that they lost to Vandy.
Yeah, I mean, Vandy, they're not an offensive juggernaut, never have been. I think this team here has had 3 winning seasons in 40 years. That speaks volumes, So basically, it shows you where the emphasis is the school as far as football. Not to say they're going to lay down, but I give them credit; they haven't given up. So that's probably their MO is hey, we're going to try to go out there as a team and compete. We're going to have some life lessons. We're going to learn how to win in other areas, not maybe on the scoreboard, but get these little moral victories. And not to say they haven't had talent come out of Vanderbilt, because they have. It's not like the school's a lay down school. They're just just going to lay down and give up, because that's not what they do at Vanderbilt. Especially when they play Tennessee right in that last game of the season. There's some surprises in that game. But they last year they had 3 wins. They beat Colorado State. They beat Connecticut. That's it. 2 wins. 2 wins last year. They lost the season to show you how they went last year. They opened up the East Tennessee State and got almost shut out by them. So we'll see. When you're at the bottom, there's nowhere to go but up.
Yep. I guess this will be the first time that I have to say it on the show for 2022, and that's the sun does shine on a dog ass someday. But
Yeah, I mean, they had a winless season in 2022. So I would just just it's there's tough rowing, tough sledding for this team, but they'll eventually get better, and they'll take their lumps along the way. So they're not a laughing stock team. Don't get me wrong. This is a team that competes. They go out and they're just not an offensive juggernaut. That's for sure. I don't know what their numbers are. I don't have team rankings. I'm not looking at where they're at, but I'm sure they're pretty close to the bottom on the offensive side of things. Nationwide. Here we go. Scoring, they rank 128th out of 130. So that's pretty much near the bottom.
Yeah, and the way I see them this year, they have health is going to be an issue this year because they're lacking depth all over in all the units, and the players that they do have, they need to hang on to them. So we hope these guys don't go out there and injure themselves because that could be a big part to make it even worse.
Here's a positive. They did rank. I think their ranking came out 32 for recruiting, so that speaks a little bit of volumes there. So now they got some athletes to go with the brains. Not to say that these kids ain't athletes that are on the field now, but their recruiting rankings has stepped up. So maybe that bodes well in a couple years. And Clark Lee, gives it the old ho hum for the team, and if he sticks around for a couple, 3, 4 more years, maybe he goes for a 5-6 win season 2-3 years down the road.
Yeah, maybe he's the guy right here. That's it. Or maybe this is just a stepping stone.
Give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, or maybe it's a stepping stone to show us where he's going.
Yeah, maybe if he recruited well, so that bodes well that he's got some kind of talent. Some coaches are better recruiters than there are coaches. We've seen that happen in our years in college football. Analyzing capping football. Just some guys are better recruiters than there are coaches. And some guys can juggle both. We look at Saban, look at Fisher, those type of coaches. Maybe I'm not saying this is that guy, but maybe he's next level type coach for Vanderbilt's program.
Yep. So that wraps it up for the SEC East. Now I want to say in this one, Big Ragoo, looking at the winner of the SEC East, looks like Georgia is kind of a shoe-in. But what's going to be interesting is that number 2 spot.
Mm-hmm.
The number 2 spot, no matter if we get Florida, if we get Tennessee, or
Kentucky,
or Kentucky is another one that can slip up in there.
Right.
Who gets that 2 spot? It's going to be interesting to see. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. If Georgia gets tripped up, it could be a real interesting season in the SEC East this year.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia could. You know how they say teams that win championships and stuff, they come back and they don't do as well. And but I mean, the only thing that's riding on their side is they got a point to prove. They got a point to prove that we are that number 2, number 1 team in the SEC, and don't keep looking at Bama before you see Georgia. Yeah. So if they play well on the field and make that the statement, then they definitely win the East. They definitely go back to the playoffs, and we might get a rematch of
ever
Alabama,
since Kirby's
Georgia.
been there, they've always been knocking on the door, and it's always been one win away from, hoisting that trophy. And they finally had the perfect season last season with a couple, 2-3 years in a row. Before that, it's always been, the one trip up. And now, they got to the top of the mountain. Let's see who's going to knock them off if they can come back.
Let's see. Well, I think that's it right here for us, man. I'm going to be coming with some Mountain West stuff. You're welcome to join me. That's going to be the next task is to dig deep into this Mountain West. And, I'm going to probably babble on for a long time with that one, but some interesting stuff going on over there. So that's what's next. Next up, be looking for these videos to be chopped up into a more sensible meal plans where you can digest them team for team. We do appreciate all of our guys in the chat who hung with us thus far. We've been on for a solid hour going on in a few seconds, but we appreciate that. And that's it, man. I don't have much to say. Make sure you give us a follow and a subscribe. Look out for all the other guys on the channel that do their shows. My man Teece, Wham, you know who they are, Dom Ricci. Look for us on Friday with those betting trends and those great insights from my man Dom Ricci. So
Rambling and Gambling, Dom Ricci.
Gambling. That's what we're doing. But that's it for us, man. Y'all have a great Sunday, and we'll see you this next week.
Peace out.
The Boss and the Sauce Show.
Boss and the Sauce Show.
Boss and the Sauce Show.
Boss and the Sauce Show. Here we go.